On today's show, the San Diego Padres get themselves another series win over the D-backs thanks to some clutch hitting from Xander Bogaerts, Ryan O'Hearn, all the new additions. And speaking of new additions, Mr. Jim Gries, the big Jim himself of the postcast that you're used to on this channel. He's joining by to talk about not just the latest things in the Padres, but also what it's been like covering the team this year. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, August 7th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes, only sometimes, the most, Javier Reyes, and I've been covering this team for almost 6 years now, not just for this podcast, but also various other outlets, including justbaseball.com, chief among them. You can follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. But you can also follow today's co-host and the host of the postcast, which goes live, for those who don't know, after every single Padres game, giving you the quick rundown, the immediate play-by-play, not as much as the big picture. If you just want that immediate thing, if you got to get your thoughts out because Mason Miller almost blew a game, if you got to get your thoughts out and whatever it is, that's where my guy Jim Gries is here on today's show, man. How are you doing, man?
Javi, I'm great, man. This is amazing here. You know, the first time, maiden voyage for me on the podcast. And I think this is the fourth time we've done a crossover. But, man, I say it all the time on the postcast. I tell everybody a sub for you is a sub for me and vice versa, like any of those things. And that, you know, the interesting thing that I find is that I get a lot of comments in the show talking about things you had said on your podcast that would happen during the games. And chief among them, from my standpoint, if you remember the very first time we did a crossover, I was so excited. I think I turned a 20-minute show into like 3 hours and 46 minutes. Or is it crazy? Like it was more like 30. But point being, went real long that day. And one of the reasons we went so long is we were talking about what they should do at the deadline, probably 6 weeks, 7 weeks before the deadline. And here's what happens. Okay, I wish we had the tape to roll back. There's no tape, Jim. Come on, boomer. All right, but I wish we had the clip to roll back because you literally told everybody in the audience what AJ Preller should do at the deadline, which is exactly what he went out and did. And look at him now. I mean, all the criticism he got, but I was saying bring in the big bat for left field or first base, move a rise over. And my man Javi said, no, Gries, I think what he needs to do is what?
Get a bunch of players for the bottom of the lineup. And in fairness, they did get a big bat, right? Like they did do everything. And that's what we're going to talk about at today's show, guys. Not focusing fully on the series, right? Although last night's game very just brought a lot of joy to both of our hearts. And yes, I will hit you with the PayPal invoice for the compliment to start the show after we're done. But no, in all seriousness, I think that it's just the deadline was so polarizing for a lot of people, right? And I think that myself included, where I still have some problems with just what level of an asset you give up, regardless of what he becomes, Leo DeVries in the future. But one thing you can't deny is that the overhaul of the team, the vibe of the team does look good. And I actually think, aside from numbers, aside from making the playoffs, all that stuff, I have to imagine that it feels really good as a professional to be on a team that cares. You know what I mean? A team that you know, hey, yeah, it might be a little bit nervous if you're one of those guys that's on the edge of the roster, but that's the reality of the business, right? Even if you're on a bad team, that's the reality of the business. I have to imagine it means something for the guys in this clubhouse and the guys part of this organization that they know they're going to try, especially in a sport where we keep seeing a bunch of teams that don't, right? I mean, the Guardians were in the ALCS last year, right? And they didn't do anything. They almost traded their second best player to us, actually, Stephen Kwan, right? That was a big rumor at the deadline. So I have to imagine that means a lot. And what's also great is both guys performing. For those who didn't watch last night's game, just a quick thing. They won 3-2, thankfully, because Ryan O'Hearn, who had been hitting 111, by the way, granted, just 9 plate appearances, so not a big sample size, had been hitting 111 heading into last night's game. They bring him in, and guess what? Ties the game in the top of the 9th. And then Jose Iglesias brings in Xander Bogaerts, who had a double, who we're going to talk about a little bit later on today's show as well. Hits a double. Iglesias brings him in. And then our boy Mason gets the save. You've been texting me a lot. I feel like one of the most common Jim texts that I get is the 104. And then also when Suarez makes him nervous. It's my other favorite Jim text because it's totally valid, right? And but overall, they got the series win, and I believe they're just 2 games behind the Dodgers and 3.5 games behind the Cubs for the first wild card spot. So the Padres are really looking good right now.
Look at what Suarez did the other night in that inning in 2/3, Javi.
Yeah.
Got out of 2 big jams, one of them that he didn't even get into himself, and that was maybe his best appearance of the year. Got the win in the 10-5-11 inning game 2 games ago.
I think my take on Suarez overall, and I'm going to ask you, of course, some of your opinions on the team in a second, but I think my opinion on Suarez is he's a good pitcher. I don't know if he's always great, and as a result, I do actually think he might be the 3rd best reliever that they have, but that's why I'm not the manager, right? I do think that a role and experience is something that these guys care about a lot, and Suarez is still good. I'm just saying that there are moments when
you're going Adam and Miller.
Yeah, and then Miller, you want to have Estrada, and I love Estrada's energy.
And
all of the
Morejon's
guys
been
are so different too. Morejon's been just nails basically all year. I feel like half the time the runs he gives up, it's just because it was inherited, right? And then he just gave up 1 hit, and then they score, right? So it doesn't even get attributed to him.
He has
just
9 wins.
Man.
9 wins, which means, when he's they're scoring late runs. That's one of the reasons that I've really flipped how I feel about this team, Javi. And I talked about it very openly. And, I even joke around, say, we don't get tickets. We don't want press passes. We're just here to give you the truth. And we don't have anybody influencing what we say to you. So with that said, they struggled and they lost a lot of close games, and they lost a lot of close games in which they didn't score a lot of runs. And they actually, I think they still lead the majors in 1-run victories. They lead the majors in sacrifices. They had to do everything they could to score runs, the sacrifices, the hit and runs. They got really good, if not great, at those things. So tremendous defensive team. They've gotten really, really good at scratching out wins in any way that they could while they were struggling so much offensively. They had the injuries, but then when those guys came back, it still was happening, even after Merrill came back and the injuries and things like that. So when I look at what this team did early, where would they be without Gavin Sheets, first of all?
Yeah.
But when I think about the ways in which they had to win games, Javi, and now that they've fortified the back end of that lineup, Laureano's been on fire since he got here.
Yeah.
Fermin, where has Fermin been all our lives? I mean, this guy has literally come in, and you called that one too. I like the way Diaz was kind of turning it around, but
Me too.
What an upgrade there, and to have Diaz as a backup now. So when I think about the moves that they made, and look, I mean, O'Hearn first home run yesterday, and that was a big one to tie the game, but it's the guys at the bottom of the lineup who have jump-started this team, because the top 4 hitters in the Padres lineup, they have the highest average of any top 4 in Major League Baseball. Manny's probably, 3rd right now if you're voting for MVP.
He's been crazy.
The year he's been amazing.
Yeah.
But it's literally they learned how to win all those games with a major, like an unbelievable bullpen, right? And now with the offense getting going, Michael King is coming back. That rotation, your starter's only going to have to pitch 5 innings. This team is locked and loaded. They're set up to make a big run, Javi. They're set up to make a big run.
Absolutely, they are. We're going to talk about a little bit more why, and also some of those newbies, because I just want to give Ramon Laureano and Brad O'Hearn a little bit more love in a similar way that I did on yesterday's episode. And then I'm going to be asking Jim some fun questions about covering the team this year. But first, I need to take a break to talk to you guys about someone very cool. And that very cool one is the return of our old friends over at Prize Picks, today's sponsor, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. That's right, preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. It's the perfect time to lock in your season-long, more or less picks for the 2025 football season, all before week 1 kicks off. Whether you've got your eye on big-name quarterbacks, maybe you're a big Justin Herbert fan, you know what I mean? No bias, of course. I'm a big fan of his, but no bias. Or breakout running backs. Prize Picks makes it easy to get in on the game. It's great. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, run your game. And just like that, everybody, as I messed up the transition video clip a little bit there, we're here on second segment of this year Locked On Padres podcast. Of course, you're listening to me, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javapeno, JAVIIPNO. And you can follow my man, Big Jim. He's here on today's show. I'm so excited, man. Good vibes all around. We talked the first segment about the newbies. I think here's the 2-sentence, like the very short summary of it. Bottom line, they had the worst OPS in the majors with left fielders, and they had the second worst OPS, somehow only second, by the way, among catchers. You replace Maldonado with Freddie Fermin, who at minimum is going to be a defensive, overall just solid player. And he's been hitting well. Last night's game, 3 for 4, by the way. The difference between
Smart, too.
Fermin,
Smart.
Right? Smart. He just seems like he gets the position, man. And it just feels like one of those guys where the difference between him and Maldonado, while they're not, this isn't going from, they didn't get a superstar here, but the difference between what they were getting from Maldonado and now is the equivalent of Steve Rogers before the serum. You know what I mean? I mean, this is crazy, the type of difference that we're talking here. And it's been great. And then Laureano has been on fire. He got on base twice again yesterday, 1 hit, 1 walk. And then you have Ryan O'Hearn, who's been a little bit struggling, just a little bit. But it's interesting because with deadline bats, the Padres haven't done well over these last few years with deadline bats. Now, don't get me wrong, Juan Soto is a great player. But if you actually look back at when he first joined the Padres. Yeah, I saw that. I was watching it live. Yeah. That was funny. At first, I didn't even know it was a home run. I thought the guy caught it. I think that with the exception of Juan Soto, if you look at the deadline additions, bat-wise, that the Padres have acquired over the last few years, they usually haven't been very good. Juan Soto, great player, and he was better in his full season, but was only slugging like 410. Like he was still a good player for them, but he wasn't great when they first acquired him. Same goes for Mitch Moreland, Adam Frazier, Brandon Drury, Josh Bell. So it's really cool to see Ryan O'Hearn at least get a big moment to start. And then Ramon Laureano just looks crazy, and he's under control for the next year. So I think Preller cooked, man. I really do. Yeah. I think that he cooked, and I think that we got to give him some more credit for it. He
absolutely cooked. And you look at Laureano and what he's done, Javi, it's been insane how he's been hitting. And in fact, they give Fernando the day off yesterday. More on Fernando in a minute, because I'll just say it. Fernando has a Fernando month, or even Merrill, that could carry the offense too. So he hasn't even had it yet since the season. But when I think about Laureano, to be able to plug him into the 2-hole right away like that speaks volumes. I love the way he hits. His approach is similar, and everybody knows and loves Derek Jeter. I love the way he inside outs a fastball. So he'll push one down the right field line for a double or a triple into the gap in right center. He's phenomenal at that, right? He takes the extra base. He made a great throw yesterday to double up a guy. He's really solidified a position that was all year long. Everybody's going, wow, left field. And then catcher, right? And again, I'll say it. I thought Diaz and Maldonado, with what they have to work with, the talent level that they each possess, the skills they have, they did a real good job. I thought Diaz did a great job, but he should be a backup, right? And Fermin comes in, completely solidifies it. To me, the most impressive thing about Fermin, I love watching him. He'll take the extra base. He'll literally, you watch the intricacies of the position, and you know what a catcher does, right? The catcher calls the game. The dugout obviously is involved, but the catcher's the general on the field, even though the pitcher's the one throwing the ball. And the way that he's come in to learn the starters that he's never caught before, to learn every single reliever who he's never caught before. So credit to Fermin, obviously, credit to that whole entire pitching staff working with him, and credit to Niebla. Even, you know what I mean? To have got new guys coming in and a new catcher at this time of year, and to have it be, I mean, at least from what we can see, from what we're watching,
seamless,
as seamless, your word, seamless as possible. It's been great.
It's been great. And here's the thing. Again, I still maintain my belief that I'm a little bit worried about the level of asset they gave up. And part of me is almost like, I wouldn't have, I think it's an interesting idea. Like, would I have preferred the deadline they go for some other like good reliever, but not one of Mason Miller's stature, and then they still do the Laureano and O'Hearn trades? Maybe. But my belief is that they're turning Miller into a starter next year, so we'll see. It's one of those, like, we have to wait and see to fully know how this trade works out. But clearly, Preller was like, I'm doubling down on what we're good at. I'm just going to get some solid bats, and I'm going to make our bullpen even better, because we are a low-scoring team with great defense, good fundamentals, that just plays good ball. And then you've got a bunch of superstars at the top who could absolutely turn it on in the second half the same way they did last year. So the vibes are phenomenal, man. They absolutely are phenomenal at this point. I want to give a shout out, though, to Xander Bogaerts, who I've talked about a lot this week. Over his last 35 games, Xander Bogaerts has been very, very good. So it's not a small sample size. He's slashing over his last 35, 321 with a 374 on base and a 507 slugging, which I think is the most important thing, because that's the thing that's been ailing him all year. Yes, he can get a walk. Yes, he can get a single, but can he do enough slugging that he's not in a Rise territory, right? Not that a Rise is terrible, but you want a little bit more than that. He was slugging like 360 at one point this year. That's really bad. And he's been doing that lately. He still has a problem which should regress hopefully to the mean, where he hasn't driven in any runs. With runners in scoring position this year, he's like 63% below your average hitter. Like, I don't know why that's the case, but it's just nice to see him hit. So you have all of that together. Yeah. And you have the possibility of a Tatis, of a Merrill, of I mean, Machado's already been great, but of an Arraez. Those three guys could all catch fire, and I think they're good enough, especially Merrill and Tatis, to carry an offense. So just the possibility, the room, I think the wiggle room. And also, if they're not superstars and they're just good players, the additions of Laureano, Fermin, and O'Hearn, they can be this year's version of Jerickson Profar, Kyle Higashioka, and Donovan Solano, right? Just these good bottom of the back guys. And this is just the celebration episode.
Well,
the vibes are amazing.
The vibes are amazing. And Bogaerts. Yeah. So what about yesterday? I mean, Bogaerts with the home run in the 7th inning, cuts the lead to 2-1.
Second straight homer.
The double, right? In the gap, and he scores the winning run. What turned out to be the winning run in the game. But I want to say this about Bogaerts, okay? And I know, look, he won 2 World Series with the Red Sox. Everybody talks about the $280 million, right? And rightfully so. Yeah. And he was, in his own words, awful. That's his own word. He was awful this year for a long, long time. And he's been very, very good lately. But one of the most impressive things about him, and I want to point out, too, that Mike Schilt has said it over and over again, during this whole stretch, starting May 1st, Bogaerts has been the best defensive shortstop in Major League Baseball, according to his own manager, right? And that's huge on a really good defensive team. But the other thing that I want to say about him, to turn it around and come back from the depths that he had sunk into, as a Major League Baseball player, it's predicated on failure. You making out 7 out of 10 times you could be a Hall of Famer, right? That's the reality. Yeah. So it's based upon failure, but it's so hard to not let it creep between your ears. And some guys never come back from what Xander Bogaerts had been going through and putting himself through. He never stopped. He never wavered. He stuck with the grind day in and day out, and it just started to work. And in Major League Baseball, sometimes that's the way it happens. Sometimes it just starts to work. So if he can continue like this, that's a major, major plus for them. I love their line. I mean, top to bottom. I know the Dodgers and Mookie's really struggled this year. Top to bottom, no one can touch Ohtani, right? But top to bottom, now close, in the National League, top to bottom, given that the top 4 have the highest average of any top 4 hitters in baseball, Javi, I'm going to ask you, who has a better lineup? I can't believe I'm even asking you this now. This is how great AJ Preller did. Who has a better lineup than the Padres in the National League right now?
We're going to have to still see that the trade deadline acquisitions hold. I think it's one of those things where it's kind of reversed. The Dodgers used to be the team where they just have so much depth. And that, we know we have Tatis and Machado, and that could go head to head with Freddie and Ohtani. But now it's kind of the other way around, where the Padres have a star in Manny Machado, who's performing like a star, and then a bunch of just all B+ hitters right now with room to grow, like in the case of Tatis and Merrill, right? But I love what I'm seeing right now. The only other lineup out there, I mean, there's some in the American League probably. I think the Yankees actually, when they're firing on all cylinders, are pretty dangerous. I think that the Dodgers, again, if Mookie Betts is fixed, I don't know if he will be. He's looking like what Bogaerts was looking like at the beginning of the year.
Red Sox.
The Red Sox lineup is incredible. They're really good. I think that overall, though, man.
I meant Bogaerts and Mookie both from the Red Sox. Yeah. And Devers,
both from the Red Sox. Yeah. Devers now in San Francisco. All on the NL West. That's just because the Red Sox decided we actually don't like winning and treating our fans with respect. So let's like not do that anymore. So that's what the Red Sox did. Thankfully, that is not the case with the Padres, guys. And we're going to talk to Jim about some questions. Favorite moments covering the season. Things to look out for, and some breaking news in the midst of us talking for today's episode, guys. All that in just 1 second. Because we got to talk about our friends over at Game Time. Because if you've ever had the idea last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family, maybe it's game day, you suddenly realize, at the last second you want to be with friends and all that. That's exactly where Game Time comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you could splurge on food, drinks, merch, or even invite a bigger group to come with you, and Game Time makes it possible. They make buying tickets fast and simple, and the prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, lowest prices guaranteed, zone deals. You pick an area, they pick the seat, you get a discount, all sort of stuff with Game Time. It's one of my favorite apps out there, and you should check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do to apply. But again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Game Time. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing to the final segment with my man, Big Jim. He's here on today's episode, host of the Locked On Padres postcast. Remember, after every game, click on that YouTube channel. Boom, content right for you. It's going to be great. And sometimes I pop in there. Sometimes I sneak a little bit. And sometimes I'm also just on the show. So feel free to check that out. It's just a great recap that Jim does. It's been awesome. And it helps both me and him and the channel as a whole out. And some might even say the Padres out just by giving us some good vibes. Jim, I don't know if you heard, it was just announced that Michael King is expected to come off of, like, as we're recording, come off the IL and start in Saturday's game. If there's one question, about the Padres, it would be, well, first of all, can they win the division, which they very well could. And hey, I'm a big law of averages guy. At some point, the Dodgers can't win the division, right? So we'll see how that goes.
At some point.
But Michael King, starting Saturday's game, the only question, I think the main question for this team is going to be the rotation, and not in a like, oh, we're in danger way, but a like, what's it going to look like way. You saw JP Sears get optioned the other day. He's a depth piece, right? You still got Randy Vasquez. He's in the minors. He can be a depth piece. Then you've got one more guy that I'm blanking on right now. You've got Nestor Cortez, who just started last night, who clearly showed a lot of rust. But then, in theory, if they're healthy, Dylan Cease, Michael King, Yu Darvish, Nick Pivetta, that is a playoff winning rotation, especially Darvish, who's been excellent in the playoffs and owns the Dodgers, by the way.
I wish one of them was a lefty. That's the only
JP Sears, I guess, right? JP Sears is the one.
I mean, of those four. One of those four.
Oh, of those four, yeah, I know.
King,
of those four,
Darvish,
I would like
Cease,
that.
Or Pivetta. Yeah, it'd be nice.
We're going to see, man. We're going to see, but it's really exciting to have Michael King back. If he's healthy, that gives me faith that they were like, you know what? It's okay if we trade away Kolek and Berger. We feel really good about the health of our guys. But Jim, I want to ask you, this year, got to talk about Tatis real quick. No stats necessarily, right? Because I did bring up a lot of stats, all that sort of stuff. No stats. We talked about Bogaerts before, one of the best ranked shortstops defensively in the league, all that stuff. What do you feel about Tatis when you're watching him right now? Because to me, he's clearly good in terms of wins above replacement. He's 7th in Major League Baseball. And yet, a lot of that is coming from speed and defense and the walks. What have you felt watching? Because for me, I can't help but feel like there's a little bit of frustration amongst the fan base.
Yeah, there's a lot. And I think it's the power. I think the power just hasn't been there. And the offensive explosion has not been there. He started the season on fire, well into the 400s with his average. And then even in the short week in the end of March, and then in April, he hits 320, a little around there. But then he just sunk. And I thought for a minute there, beginning of July, it looked like he was snapping out of it. I've said this on my show, Javi. When a guy of his caliber is struggling the way that he has this year, for him to have booked a vacation for the All-Star game in advance, just knowing in his own mind, there's no way I'm making it. He booked a non-refundable vacation. I heard him tell the story.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
And so, then he makes the team, his peers vote him in, and he goes. So I think about this, right? That's how great he is. To be struggling as much as he has been offensively with the bat, I'll say. But you go back through the box scores and you look, he's still on base twice every game. He's drawing walks. Yeah. He's been hit by a lot of pitches in that hand, and that makes me nervous. Maybe he's fighting through that. But I really feel like Fernando, offensively, if he hit like this all the time and never got back what he used to be as an explosive force and MVP candidate, he'd still be an all-star. That blows my mind, right? So he's incredible defensively. He's got one of the best arms in the majors. He gets on base. He scores runs. He steals a ton of bags. He doesn't get thrown out very often. He's a leader on the team. So for a guy like him to have struggled so mightily, man, Javi, I wish I personally in any area of life could struggle like he struggles, because he still impacts every game. But I don't mean to make light of it. For them to reach the heights they want to reach, the only thing missing right now in my mind is Fernando being, that's what it is. Fernando being Fernando. That's the only thing that I'm looking at. King coming back, Cease and Darvish continuing. Like Cease is coming off a great outing. I think his best of the year. And this team is rolling right now. So while they're rolling, while things are going great, there's no pressure on Fernando. I think that really helps him. And I do think he's going to snap out of it. And when he does, Javi, when he does, he is the guy who can carry an offense by himself. He is the guy who can get the big hit off the best pitchers in the game in the playoffs. Because let's be honest, you're not beating teams. You're not scoring 10 runs, 8 runs in the playoffs all that often. You're going to have to scratch those runs across that they've become very good at doing. I don't think anybody in baseball, I don't want to, well, hold on, Jim, timeout. But Fernando's one of the best, one of the best at working pitch counts, drawing walks, taking extra bases, and just what matters the most in baseball, scoring runs, you know, and he's the best. So even
he's been great
with those struggles, he still impacts it greatly. But when he gets hot, oh man, look out.
My everydayers will know. I think where I've settled on Tatis is it is a little bit disappointing watching him. Only 2 home runs the last 2 months. I'm sorry, 2 home runs both of the last 2 months. So he has 4 over the last 2 months. That's not what you're expected to seeing. And given that it's not like things have changed with his peripherals, I think that's why. I.e., his hard hit rate is still up there. He's still barreling the ball. So I think that's why people are like, well, then where's the power? He's hitting the ball into the ground all of a sudden. He can't hit stuff on the top of the zone. There's just been a lot of like mysteriousness there. But I will say, for as much as he's regressed in the power area, like I said, at least he walks all the time. At least he's always seeing a lot of pitches. So that's good. I think that Tatis, while they do love slandering him because he has not had the same OPS since the PED suspension, which my counter to that is there are like 400 players at the top of my mind that you've seen start off great in their career and then level out. Like sometimes teams figure things out. Is it possible they figured out, you know what? He's still going to be a great player. He's got like a 130-ish WRC plus right now. He's still going to be great. But maybe if we throw on top of the zone in the right way, it limits him from being this god that he had been those first 2 years. More importantly, though, I think eventually, if this is just who Tatis is as a player overall, I think he becomes like really underrated. I think. But that's something that's like years down the line, I think. And speaking of years, my friend, this year's been a great year. I want to close out this show by asking you, what has been your favorite part, most memorable part, whether it be a player, a play, a moment recording, I don't know what it is, of covering this season so far, as this is your first time covering the Padres?
Wow. A moment that my favorite moment of the season.
Yeah.
I would say, wow. I mean, I love the passion and the energy of the fan base, first of all. I mean, Petco sells out almost all the time. What an incredible fan base of the Padres. I want to say that the support that we get with the shows is important too. As far as a favorite moment from the season, you start to think walk-offs, you start to think, you know, outstanding individual performances. But I would have to say my favorite thing about covering this team so far this year has just been how much they love to play together and how they've figured out ways to win games. I love watching this team because as much as they've struggled offensively, they always find a way. Like I said, they lead the majors in sacrifices, right? Squeezes, safety squeezes, getting guys over with bunts, sacrifice flies to score runs. So to me, the Padres epitomize that you take a walk, right? You either steal second, you do a hit and run, get them first and third, or you sacrifice them up to second. And then, you know, the fun really begins. You sacrifice, fly them in. So the way that they've done that and the way that they play baseball every day with that fire, that passion, that enthusiasm, I think if you were to watch most of the teams, and the Brewers are very similar under Pat Murphy, they just love to play the game. And in this day and age, and the Dodgers don't look like they love to play the game, and the Yankees don't look like they love to play the game. That's not a knock on them. They're very professional. But I love the way the Padres are almost like kids with their enthusiasm. So this streak where they've won 9 of 11 games, the ways in which they've won them, the 5 runs in the 11th inning, the comeback yesterday, that's probably my favorite game of the season because you're down 2-1 in the 7th. And the way that this season has gone so far, I mean, at that point in time, you're down 2-1 in the 7th, put up the tombstone, right? The game's over, but not this team anymore. So to keep coming back the way that they have and to cap it off, at least from where we sit now, being here today, yesterday's game, Bogaerts the homer, and then in the 9th inning, they scratch out 2. It's been a typical Padre game where Cortez battled his butt off and kept him in there for 4 2/3, only gave up 2 runs somehow, 3 hits, 3 walks. But the offense just kept plugging. It wasn't working, kept plugging. They always keep their faith. But the most important thing is that bullpen, man. Nobody has that. It's your starter could go 3 innings and you're going Adams pitching in the 5th inning, dude. Jason Adam, well, he could be one of the best closers in baseball. He's pitching the 5th inning. He's Morejon in the 4th inning. I mean, it's just crazy what they have in that bullpen. And now with the offense going, King coming back, diggy down with the King, it's going to be so much fun watching this team because they haven't even come together yet and gelled with the new guys.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I agree, man. I think my favorite moment, for what it's worth, is the walk-off game little bit biased because I was at that game in Petco
Which
Park.
one?
This is the Elias Diaz walk-off one. You were texting me being like, yo, let's hit the live. And unfortunately, we were running back to our hotel. I was at the game. We're in the streets of Gaslamp. I'm like, can I call it? I don't even know how. Wish I could have, but incredible game to be. The complete opposite of the game I went to 2 months ago when I missed the only run that they scored, a Tatis home run, funny enough. But yeah, the vibes are great, man. It's been a really great team. And I think that overall, it's just cool to be a part of what has felt like a movement, which is something you don't see often in sports. You don't see teams let's say pre 2016, whatever, have such a metamorphosis as a franchise, right? Maybe the Golden State Warriors, them becoming a big thing, the Patriots with Tom Brady, but it's very rare that you get to be a part of a team that was kind of irrelevant in the grand scheme of things, and then becoming the focal point, selling out Tuesday night games against the Angels, right? No offense to the Angels, but you guys get my point. So it's been great, man. And again, everybody go check out Jim on the postcast after the game. Check him out, not after tonight's game because there is no game. It's a day off. But after tomorrow's game, after Saturday's game, I imagine he's going to have a lot of things to say about the King's ransom. But Jim, it's been a blast having you on, guys. You've been listening to the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Remember, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. Stay tuned to the postcast going live on YouTube, and then it hits your podcast platform that you prefer right after it's done uploading. And until next time, stay safe, and of course, stay faithful, my Fire Faithful homies. Take care.